Hello. I'd like to share something unusual that has many levels. And for those of you who are interested in human design, you may know that I used to be a teacher of human design and was very involved in that system. And I have brought my kind of spiritual insight through that system and kind of reshaped it in different ways. It kind of changed inside me, and one of the things that I begun to see were kind of what we call sacred circuits, transcendent circuitry that are hidden in this shape, the body graph. You don't need to know anything about human design, by the way, to understand this. It's something inspiration for all of us. And if you're involved in the gene keys and the delta, or if you know human design, you'll have probably lots of bells going off when you look at this. And it's a kind of it's a circuit. I call it the Orphic Circuit. And when I say it's a circuit, it's a sort of series of streams that flow through our being that represent a symbolism. So there's what you'll find here is 7 or 8 keys in human design. They're called gates, and these gates or keys represent a deep kind of transmission on the musical nature of the universe. And so it starts with gene key 12, and in the human design, that's in the throat system, the place where expression comes from. It's not just only in the throat, but it's actually everywhere in our being. And it's gene key 12, which is the keynote here is the soloist and the naked voice. And it is, in a way, it represents the purity. Gene key 12 is about purity. It's the purity of our unique voice in the world, and it's love that wants to come out through our voice, not just the physical voice, but our expression, the vibration of our being, of our uniqueness. And that's what this represents, because when we speak, in a way, when we speak from our heart, from our truth, we become very vulnerable. The throat itself is very vulnerable. It means that we have to fully express something, and we're naked when we do. And so each soul is here on earth to express some unique aspect of its essence in each lifetime. And this is that expression going out into the world and impacting through love. Of course, we have many expressions, and the shadow of gene key 12 is vanity, so that gets mixed in, and sometimes we say things that aren't so selfless. But this is the ideal, this is the idealized musical nature of every human being, as a deep sense of soul aloneness. The naked voice comes out from our aloneness. This is the soloist. Each of us is a soloist in the great orchestra of being. So we have to be that one voice that just brings the crowning glory to all the other pieces of the orchestra, right? So it's something for you to consider. And then opposite that, in the flow of the stream here, is gene key 22. And gene key 22, as some of you may know, is the key of grace. And this is so all of this is about acoustics, deep kind of transcendent acoustics. So gene key 22 represents the ear that hears. It's through the emotional system, so it's deeply emotional, and it hears the waves of the emotional being and the world of soul. The soul of being, the soul of the ocean. And so this is called the audience. If you have a soloist, you have to have the audience, and this is in you. You become the audience as well. You have to listen and imbibe all the other soloists. Whether they're coming from vanity or purity or whatever frequency, this is the part of you that gives them the graciousness of just letting their song out into the universe. Again, even if it's really polluted and toxic, this gene key 22 can take in anything, and it can lend it the ears of love. This is out of this gene key 22 comes the dance of art. Here is about grace and graciousness and the movement and the flow, and it's about deep listening through our emotional system, through our emotional being, through our astral being. And so there's great beauty and grace in the human being, especially when we start to listen from this unjudgmental place of purity. and we're just taking in the energy. And what we can do through that taking in is we can actually change and transmute someone else's message into love, into, in this whole pathway, this channel that connects the emotional system with the expression system. This is about art and music. It's not just art as in culture, although it all has a lot to do with that. It's also the art of living. It's the art of being. It's our lives as works of art. So we have to be both the soloist and the audience. And then the stream continues and it goes through Gene Key 6. And this is moving into a slightly different stream now. This is like a kind of transcendent circuitry that involves intimacy, and connection and connectivity. And so Gene Key 6 is represented by the United Nations. Through this Gene Key 6, it's also in the emotional system, all the colors of the cultures of the world are combined and flow. So they all flow through our emotional being. Every single human being alive brings a color, a hue, a tone out into the world, into the culture of the world. And so we cross-pollinate all this beautiful energy through our dances and rituals and culture and all the colors. If you look at the flags of the United Nations, it represents the United Nations, not literally the UN, but all nations united. It's the vision of nations united in intimacy, coming together. All those different flags, all those different dances, all those different folklore costumes. When you see the indigenous people up dressed in those, all of that, all the colors of culture combined together, the rainbow of human expression come together in intimacy, to build relationships. This is the musical frequency of Gene Key 6, which combines and fuses together all the different emotional codes of humanity. And so it's something to consider, like it's the dream of this, it's contained in human beings. This circuit is called the Orphic Circuit after Orpheus. Orpheus is the great divine bard. He represents the bard who plays the sacred harp. And each of these strings, as Orpheus plucks the divine lyre, he brings harmony to earth. And this is about bringing harmony. Every time you see Gene Key 6, it's the gift of diplomacy. It's peace on earth. It's the rainbow body. It's transcendent kind of harmony delivered into the emotional field of humanity. And then the other end of that pathway is 59, which is where we see the intimacy. So we see Gene Key 59, the golden mean, the geometry of nature. And the golden mean are these ratios of perfection that we find everywhere in the universe. So in nature especially, we see these patterns and sub-patterns, and this is Orpheus sitting on his lyre by a river or a stream and kind of conducting the elephants. The elephants? Conducting. This is conducting the elements. Might well be conducting the elephants as well. And so he's like playing his lyre and plucking these beautiful chords and keys and arpeggios. And then all the elements are kind of combined and recombined together. And we see this even more in Gene Key 27 as the flow continues through the stream of beauty. So in Gene Key 59, we also see the kind of breaking down and recombining of the geometries of nature in this sort of serpentine, crystalline grids of perfection. So everywhere through that Gene Key 59 with its transparency, we get to see the underlying frequencies of the perfect symmetries, supersymmetries, and the divine harmonics of creation at play behind the scenes. And it's everywhere we see sacred geometry, the geometry of destiny, the geometry of the flow of the seasons and the epochs of humanity. As we combine and come together and get married and get divorced and go apart and incarnate and excarnate, it's the whole human story written through this Gene Key, coming back together into the form and finding each other again and building intimacies and it's a beautiful story. And this is the sacral center, which is the life force itself, represents the life force center. And so in this life force center, the gene key 27, we find the food chain itself. So this is like everything eating, everything else, the divine nourishment. And this is the selflessness of every aspect of the chains of being, of the hierarchies and the heterarchies and the synarchies of being, because we have to keep feeding each other. We're all fuel for the dreams of the next creature and the dreams of the next. And so what we see here is the food chains of love. You know, we say that food and love are interconnected. The mathematics of love, there's real precision in how everything consumes everything else at every level of being throughout the universe. And so this gene key 27 is the harmony, the music of altruism, because all life is altruistic. And so when Orpheus plucks this note, you know, you can see, by the way, that these notes follow color patterns which relate to our chakras and to these higher energy bodies, and you can play with that with your contemplation. And here we have the deep blues, and so this is like the energy of the sky and nature and the seasons and the elements of the earth and the ocean and the wind. And all of that, the mathematics of the weather systems and the climate systems, and even systems that, you know, when they begin to fall out of harmony, the underlying harmony behind that disharmony is always there. So when Orpheus plucks his lyre and plucks a few notes that seem discordant in the great bardic chain of life, it's because something interesting is happening in the music. And some change is going to take place, and perhaps he's going to speed up, or he's going to slow down, or he's going to switch entire chords and modes of music. So you find all the modes and chords of music built into nature. Nature is deeply musical. And then gene key 50, and here you have this in this beautiful pathway here connecting to the intuition. Deep intuition, and intuition is where we hear music through the sound of the spheres, and we smell it as well, and we can taste it. And here is the Celestial Mandala. These are the higher harmonies of us being interconnected with the movement of the spheres and the cosmos and the galaxies and the wheeling arc of the eons. And all of this celestial mandala, even beyond death and birth, these mandalas of the soul, as we move in and out of the form, and we come from stars and we're part of stars, and the planets and the moving of the planets and the perfect geometries of the timing of everything. This is the sound and the harmony of the spheres itself, you know, and it contains all the others. And then we come to gene key 57, which continues through this deep intuitive knowing. And this I call the divine tuning fork. It's like a fork that sits there and it listens and it pulses. And all it does is it listens and it hears whatever frequency is coming towards it, but it doesn't judge that frequency. And it has a gift of being able to attune to the higher worlds, to invisible worlds, through this deep, secret sound system, vibrational system. All of music is vibration, and this is like tuning to the highest frequencies, the highest vibrations, and therefore gaining knowledge, divine knowledge, sacred knowledge of the higher worlds. You know, and in order to attune to that knowledge, we have to become one with that knowledge. We are the tuning fork. And you know, when you place two tuning forks next to each other and you bang one and the other one comes into harmony, and that's through affinity. And this is the same. This is where we tune into the higher frequencies, and then we start to become those higher frequencies. And their wisdom becomes us. It moves through us. We become the music of the spheres. We become the perfection of the mathematics of the food chain. We become the golden means and the spirals, and we merge with the colors of culture and all human beings, and we become part of the theater and the dance and the color of existence and the emotional system and the longing and for harmony. And then we come right back to the one voice, the soloist that began, this one note. be, our Om, our sacred Om, our single note, a thread in the wilderness of being. And there's one final key, which is a key that isn't a key, in a way, Gene Key 20. And this is the word. It's part of the circuit, but it's also not. It's part of the transcendence, the eighth, the octave. And it is the word, the breath of God, the deep breath that sounds the silent mantra of existence, the mandala of eternity, infinity, the deep silent void out of which all music emerges. And the very first word, the word of the divine, the word of God, is spoken and vibrates through everything. That single word. And it brings us back to the soloist, because the word of God is what gives us our unique soul. So the soul is both completely unique and eternal as an aspect of God, but it's also the void, the whole. So the soul is open on all sides to the great chain of being, but it's also paradoxically unique. So it's both merged and yet individual. And that beautiful paradox is, it continues. The more merged it becomes, the more individual and pure it becomes. And here is the dance of the great, lyre. And there's this notion of the borealis, the lyre through which the wind blows. The wind harp. And so we are the harp, and then the wind is the word of God that plays through us, the will of God, the breath of God that plays through us. And all we can do is surrender. And this whole universe, multiverse, starts to pour through. Everything is music, everything is vibration, everything is tone, everything is color. And it's just mind-blowingly perfect. So this is the circuit or the stream of Orpheus, the divine bard who sits at the threshold of consciousness and plays a universe in and out of being over and over again, countless times in countless dimensions, with all the possibilities of heaven and earth and suffering and bliss and male and female and all the polarities combined and the crystal and the dragon and all these different forces that are just coming into the one divine word of God. And of course I know that many of you are wondering, well, what if I have that gene key? I have 3 of those? Or if you're looking at your human design, I have loads of those, or I don't have any of those. What does it mean? I guess the answer is, at one level, it doesn't mean anything. But at another level, it means a lot. So you can look and you can see, well, if I have one of those in my Gene Keys profile, or if I have some of them in my human design, if I'm looking at that, then I'm seeing parts of my curriculum during this life. I'm seeing aspects of the kind of music that I am here to imbibe and be involved in, and maybe some of the words and the terms and the expressions that I've shared here as I've moved through the stream of heavenly harmonies can be inspirational for you. But it's really, these are imprinted in all of us. So we all play with all of these. We cannot be uninfluenced by any of it. We live in this universe. And every time that lyre is playing, and it's playing constantly, those streams and sounds and cadences are moving through us. They're moving through our bodies, they're moving through our souls, they're moving through, our whole planetary story. So every time we see things happening out there and we feel things happening in here, it's Orpheus plucking the lyre and telling a story. One of the great bards telling the story of this round, your story as well. Your voice, but also all of our voice and the voice of the divine. So be inspired by all of it if you can. And yes, you can alight your consciousness on different aspects and yet maintain the openness to be part of the whole, the fabric of the whole, and let the wind of Aeolus, the god of the wind and the breath, blow through your life and play the tuning little strings of your lyre, and let the highest harmonies come out of you and transmute and transform any of the shadow discordant notes that you feel, and transform them into sweetness so that others can enjoy that as well. I guess that's my final word. Okay, thank you.